Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser-known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway. Welcome back, guys. I'm back with Claudine, and today we are talking about Dior and tarot cards. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah, I think, and we've only talked about, I think, one other of the Dior. But I think my very favorite pieces in this whole exhibit are all done by Dior, and they're done by different designers under Dior. But this one is one that it's so amazing. I go in there all the time just to go and look at it and take in the details because it's really, really gorgeous. And I'll put a ton of pictures on my website. So we are talking about another piece that is in the exhibit of the Louvre. And this, as we said, it's a Dior. So this one is a beautiful coat. It was done by Maria Grazia Chery for Dior. It is just amazing. Dior himself was very superstitious. From his signature sprig of lily of the valley to a gold star he once found on the street on Rue Saint-Honoré, he would, when he was on his way to go meet somebody to help fund his new house of fashion, he kept both the star and the lily of the valley with him every day until the end of his short life. To this day, they both remain essential elements, could be found in Dior's collections and stores. The seventh designer and the only female designer in the house's history so far, Maria Grazia, shared a belief with the founder in astrology as well. Madame Dulé read Christian Dior's tarot cards every week and was told that one time she said, "Women are lucky for you, and through them you will achieve success and you will travel widely."
Oh, so she was right on.
She was right on. Grazia fell in love with the power of the images in the cards and their ability to bring strength and rebirth and put this all together. Now, I did so much research on these original cards. They were absolutely amazing. And then I added even more research to this. In like the 11th hour before we were recording, I was still finding more and I had to learn to just stop. But the tarot cards we see today are much different from the original cards of the Renaissance. The first cards date back to the 15th century and were a very popular parlor game for very wealthy and upper class people. They were originally called Triumph, which was kind of an early version of bridge. And it wasn't until the 18th century that these cards were tied to astrology and what people think of them today.
I found this out because I interviewed a woman who does tarot for creativity, and she said she was so surprised to play tarot with her in-laws in France, and like she thought it was going to be some like reading your future, but it was more like bridge, like you said.
Yeah, and the cards, like, because I knew somebody that was gonna go play those, and I was like, oh my God, you're what? Like, like tarot cards, and they're different kinds of cards. But I think that version is closer tied to the original ones. So it's not like they go and play today with like tarot cards that you would go have your whatever read. But it is pretty cool, and I see ads online sometimes for it. So it's kind of cool that it came back and here in Europe.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's like a
Yeah.
common thing here.
The earliest set is attributed to the Visconti Sforza family of Milan. The Duke of Milan, Filippo Maria Visconti, as well, was also the richest man in Milan at the time. He'd been married twice, but he still was without an heir to his fortune. All that changed on March 3rd, 1425, when he had a daughter that was born to his mistress, Agnese del Meno. She was the illegitimate daughter, but would inherit a vast fortune upon her father's death in 1447. It wasn't they weren't in line to the throne, so it didn't really matter. Maria was just 5 years old when she was promised to Francesco the First Sforza. Sforza came from a family of mercenaries and defenders of Milan against the French invaders. With an eye for money and power, Sforza, which is Italian for power, was astute in choosing the young Maria as his third wife. The betrothal also came with a substantial dowry that included multiple properties around Milan. The marriage contract was signed in 1432, 2 weeks before her eighth birthday. But don't worry, the actual wedding was not held until 1441 when she was the ripe old age of 16.
Oh my God, so gross.
It is normal. That was completely normal. I mean, you died when you were like 32, so 16 was Middle Ages. You were middle age at that
This
time.
is true. This is true.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
It's still kind of gross. I mean, you didn't get grossed out when I said she was five?
It's already sold to the future.
Yeah, already sold off. And Sforza was 24 years older than Maria and was spending his time in the beds of many other women, even producing many, many illegitimate children. Maria was not pleased with any of this, and as the story goes, one of the women was quote unquote dealt with. So I think she had her offed. The couple had 10 children, eight of whom would survive their childhood. In 1448, the city of Cremona was attacked by the Venetians, a city where the Visconti family owned a large majority of the property. Unhappy with the response of her husband, she put on an armor suit and charged into battle. She would forever be known as the Warrior Woman, a title that would speak to the other Maria 600 years later. The creation of the cards have either been a request of either her father or her husband. I've came across two versions many, many times. The most common story is that they were commissioned as a gift for the marriage of his daughter, Maria Bianca Visconti, to Francesco. The second is that they were created by Francesco for his wife on their 10th wedding anniversary. Either way, it doesn't matter. But they were created by artist Bonifacio Bembo, each of 78 cards. They're hand painted on thick cardboard. Lapis lazuli, malachite, and precious minerals used for the bold colors, and lots of gold gilding, and even a little silver. The major arcana cards feature a gilded gold background with figures painted in contemporary clothing at the time, with family members used for many of the people, including the couple themselves in the lovers card. The royal members of the stick cards were draped in blue and gold. Figures of the cups cards are in red and gold. Sword figures in red, and the coin cards, the denier, are also in gold. And if you look at these and you look at tarot cards that we know of today, you definitely get to see, the same idea, even though there was a pope and then there was a female pope, which you don't have in tarot cards now. But each of these cards is a snapshot of the Renaissance period, which is what makes them so amazing, with the colors and clothing of the time. Treated more as a piece of art, the cards remain in very good condition. They believe they were most likely never really played with. Small holes at the top of each card suggest that they must have been hung on a wall. And they're bigger. These are bigger cards. They're not. And when you see the images of the coat, they're just a tiny bit smaller than the images on the coat. Today, 72 of the 78 cards survived, and it can be found in the Morgan Library in New York and also some at Yale University. But you could also find your own set online. And of course, I did because I wanted to take them in and match them to the coat. But I found some online that you could order. Just look up Visconti Sforza Tarot. Growing up in Rome, Maria Grazia was surrounded by the art of the Italian Renaissance, which left a lasting impression on her. She first worked at Fendi and then for Valentino. In 1999, she was named the head of the women's collection at Dior. Upon arrival, she leveraged her love of art and research to dive into each of the six collections she had to create throughout her tenure, which lasted just until this year. Grazia, like Dior himself, as always, was intrigued by astrology. Upon seeing the Visconti de Madrone tarot cards, she believed to incorporate them into her 2017-18 Haute Couture collection. Her third collection for the House of Dior was inspired by a 1953 map drawing of the five continents by Albert de Caris. She found in the archives the actual map that was created for Christian Dior. In the short years of his life after the war, he traveled to the US, South America, and Tokyo, and Albert had made this into a map. She took this map and created a kind of quilted jacket with the image of this map embroidered on it. That's in the not in the Louvre, but was in this collection, and you could see it online, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we should look that up. I bet you put it on your website anyway.
I bet I will, and a video of the show. But Dior once said a complete collection should address all types of women in all countries. A quote that spoke to Maria. Along with the Dior map, it also featured warrior women, as we just talked about, a heroic female explorers, including groundbreaking pilots like Amelia Earhart, Amy Johnson, and Marie Marvinier. They even have one of the pieces in there looks like something that Amelia Earhart would have worn, like the whole leather, brown leather with like the was it the shearing underneath it. The classic silhouettes of Dior, along with the use of his signature gray, brown, cream, and black and masculine shapes, both feminine touches such as belts, pockets, and draping. The collection debuted on the 3rd of July, 2017, in the shadows of the Dome of Les Invalides. It was in a huge open tent filled with trees and wooden animals from around the world. After more than 6 minutes of every shade of gray in beautifully constructed dresses, jackets, and even the custom coat with the map, came the beautiful gold hued jacket. It was look number 51 is the piece we see in the couture exhibit today. It was worked on by the Maison Vermont, which brings each of the tarot cards to life in embroidery. The Maison was created in 1956 by Jean-Guy Vermont. The haute couture artisans spent hundreds of hours adding the details that truly make these designs stand out. It was purchased by Dior in 2012, but still housed in a former Hotel Particulier on the Boulevard Poissonnière. The house was developed a close relationship with each designer of Dior. On the coat, so this coat is actually made up of the actual images of the tarot cards, but where it's all of like the major arcana and then the figures of the people, so not like the four of swords or whatever those are. And if you look at it, it is just amazing. But she loved tarot cards, and she specifically had two favorites: the death card, which sounds scary at first, but it's a card of rebirth. The Visconti image includes a skeleton on a horse before a gold background. At the time the cards were created, a fascination with the macabre permeated art and found its way into the cards. Europe had barely survived in the 14th century plague known as the Black Death that took out as many as 23 million people. Up to 60% of Europe was killed in the 14th century because of the Black
Holy
Death.
cow, my God.
I know people already, COVID was horrible, but, the Black Death, I'm glad we didn't have to live through that period.
Same.
Yeah, the tragic event led to a fascination with death depicted in Renaissance art. The figure of death, often referred to as a great reaper in Europe or a camarade in an image of a skeleton, typically with a skin stretched tightly over his emaciated body. The card is located on the left side of the jacket. That's where she specifically wanted it. But I don't think the Louvre knew this because they posed the mannequin with their arm bent and covering that up. So I don't think they knew this.
They made a mistake.
I know, I'm gonna tell him. If I see Olivier that's in charge of the Objet d'Art section, I'll be like, hey, we need to talk. You need to fix this. I don't think they do. The other card she loved was the card, also known as La Force or Fortitude. It's one of the four cardinal virtues. Each of the four virtues are found in the tarot cards. Prudence, justice, temperance, and of course, fortitude. They represent courage, power, and action. A female figure represents strength while her hands open or prying open the mouth of a lion. La Force is often associated with the Greek god Hercules. So you see it mostly in male figures in the cards, known for its acts of valor, strength, and courage, but they made it a woman. The lion represents the ego, and the act of pulling its jaws open without fear is a pursuit of prestige. She also loved the fact that the tarot cards are an equal representation of both men and women. So it's not more men, it's a good value. There are other tarot cards that are focused mostly just on women and the feminine energy, queens and everything like that. Those are pretty cool. The coat is crafted with satin crepe and silk organza. Its features detailed the embroidered scroll work around each card that was inspired by another 16th century archival item that the Maison Vermont had. They worked with the images on silk. They were backed with felt, and then small beads were added through embroidery, a process that took over 1,500 hours to complete it all by hand. It's worn over a beautiful black tulle dress with gold threads, embroidery evoking feathers of a bird's wing. And at the bottom, there's embroidered gold rising suns, which are kind of a repeat from the tarot cards. It's truly amazing up close. I love it. Go make sure you see it from both sides, especially from the back, because you see more, there's more images on the back, but you could get closer on the back side. And so just look at all, I'll put a bunch of pictures up. But this was one thing that the Louvre did not have a piece of art to match it. The Louvre doesn't have any tarot cards on display, but it has 8 in the collection that once belonged to Edmund de Rothschild. They were given to the museum in 1935. Florentine in design, but very similar because they were created about the same time as the sets used for the coat. But I think they should have put some of those. I've got notes for them. They should have put some of those on display next to it.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense.
But I was in there recently, as I always am, and I was walking through this, a couple rooms away from this, and I was looking and a case, and I noticed this small 17th century little oval coupe, they called it, and it is in terracotta, and it represents force. And it is just a single image of a woman carrying a column on her shoulder. It's in the style of Bernard Palissy, which we'll talk about in a couple weeks. But then I realized, oh, that's the same. You look at tarot, but there's definitely that beginning of it being allegorical as well. So you could find allegories. A lot of times, you could be in the Jardin de Luxembourg and you're looking at the fountain of Marie de Medicis, and there is allegories for the Arno River or for the Seine, but you also have allegories for, the virtues and things like that. And that's kind of the same thing. So they should have put some of those next to it.
Well, now you can help them set up the next one.
I know. I'm just going to have to just send in my notes. But also for the death, just above the Cour Marly, in a room behind there is about a 4-foot tall statue. It's the allegory of death, was once placed at the entrance of the Les Innocents cemetery. When the cemetery was dismantled, the statue was moved to the nearby Église Saint-Gervais and eventually to Notre Dame, where it was placed in the chapel of Saint Guillaume near the tomb of Henri Claude d'Arco. That is the one where you also have death coming, standing with the tomb opened up, and arrived at the Louvre in 1866. But it is that perfect idea of what they thought of as, where I think the States, people would call it the Grim Reaper. There, it's the Great Reaper here in Europe. But it's, all of these things. It's once I started thinking about it, we could have gone down a deep rabbit hole and I could have gone into every single one of the cards, but I do have to move on.
You can't spend years on each one of these.
But it is really fascinating. And to see, I listened to something one time, a woman that had done a tarot cards, the one that was saying about they were all female figures, and she said when she created these like 30 years ago, she was only like the fifth version that was like widely available on the market, and now there's like hundreds. And I found a store, I was just walking by because they had books about Notre Dame in the window. And so I went inside, and inside there was an entire wall that was, I don't even know, there must have been 100 different boxes of different kinds of tarot cards. And I was like, wow. I mean, there's hundreds. You could find one with just about any theme you would ever want.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun, but it would be cool to see the original ones.
Yeah, so the ones I found that I ordered, they're supposed to be the same one, but some of the images don't match the ones on the coat. So I'm like, I don't think so. So I need to go into this little store. They've been, of course, closed because it's, the summer, but I need to go into the store and maybe just take pictures of the coat and say, okay, I want some like this. But the cards I have, they're close to it. But they're not, some of them. I wanted it to be the exact same images. But it is amazing. I mean, this coat is just amazing. It's so gorgeous. And I'll put a link to the website or to the YouTube of the actual video of the show as well, so you could see it.
All right, guys. Well, make sure you head over to ClaudineHemingway.com and hire her for tours, follow along on her adventures, and tune in next week. Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, ClaudineHemingway.com.